I'm sorry, Kate, you didn't hear me when I said I could hear you?
No, I've been having a few technical difficulties, Cindy. I have a new monitor that I got like 45 seconds ago because mine died right before this.
Don't feel bad. I was having a hard time hooking up.
I think I'm good. See.
It can't get any worse than my microphone fiasco yesterday, so I think this is a good showing so far.
I hate technology.
Amazing when it works.
Yeah,
Pete,
amazing
it's
when it
Tony
works.
in Tonopah. Don't forget to send me that RIP, please.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I just looked it up before and just have been running around the last little bit here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Hey, Cindy.
I'm in the mountains. Hello, Joni.
You are. You're in the Alps. You're not working from home. You're working from the Alps.
Yep. Well, at first I was working from the office till it started snowing pretty bad. Then I had decided I better get home while I could.
Send the snow
Oh.
down to Vegas. We have nothing at Mount Charleston. Nothing. It's terrible.
You have snow today?
No, nothing. We got a 1/4 inch in November.
I mean, Cindy.
Oh, Cindy's getting it today.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Cindy, it's snowing.
we got a lot.
Oh my gosh, it is beautiful here. Windy, but beautiful. Blue sky.
Peter, is it still snowing?
It looks like it's taking a break right now.
Oh, it's snowing in Carson too.
Oh yeah.
It's on a union break.
There you go.
All right. It's 1:01. Should we give folks a few more seconds to log on, or are you guys ready to jump in?
Maybe just a couple.
Start on time, end on time. Everybody wants to go to your meetings, Kate.
It looks like we're in pretty good shape if you want to.
Great. Hey, Jim. All right. Well, let's call to order the Board on Indigent Defense meeting then for today, the 6th of February. Let's start with a roll call. Cindy, if you could see who's here for us.
Will do. Good afternoon, everybody. And I'd like to remind everybody this meeting's being recorded. Okay, Kate Thomas.
I'm here.
Joni Eastley.
Yep.
Chris June Kiliani.
Here.
Jeff Wells.
Hello.
Hi there. Susan Bush. Oh, that's right. She's not going to be here. Angela Cook. Lorena Dellinger.
Here.
Joe Krim.
I am here.
Allison Jaffe. Dave Mendiola. Jared Hickman. Justice William Moppin. And David Figler.
I am here.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Cindy. How about we'll move into public comment? Do we have any public comment from individuals that wish to speak on items on the agenda or otherwise?
No public comment from on our end.
I don't see anyone. I see an iPhone 3. I don't know who that is, but I don't see any hands. All right, then we'll jump into the discussion on possible action of approval of the minutes. Anybody have any questions on the minutes from the November 21st, 2024 board meeting? Go ahead, Joni.
No, they looked good. Motion to approve. This is Eastley in Tonopah.
Chris G, second.
Thank you. We have motion a second. All those in favor? Any opposition? Great. Let's move on to item number 4 then. We've got the board's updates, and I believe Peter's going to walk us through items A, B, C, D, and E.
Yeah, happy to take it over from here. So a lot has gone on since the last board meeting. I imagine most of you are aware of some fashion. Also to start with the first one, I was appointed by the governor to be the executive director of the department. Still looking for somebody to hire to replace me as the deputy director. Hopefully we'll have a couple of interviews in the near future for people who've applied and made their interest known. Second, we had the resignation of Harriet Cummings. We also were notified that Laura Fitzsimmons resigned her position. We've also had a member added, David Figler. Congrats on your appointment by the Supreme Court and welcome. We also had Andrew Coates was appointed to serve as a Nevada State Public Defender. That's really the main appointments and resignations for the board. There's going to be some, I don't know how the next election to fill Laura's seat will happen. That's, I think, a governor's appointed seat, though, for everyone's information.
Question, Peter, or Madam Chair to Peter?
Yes, go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little background about Coates?
Sure, yeah. Andrew Coates, I think he was licensed in 2019. He previously held a contract in Nye County. He comes to us directly from the governor's office where he was a deputy counsel to the governor.
That's where I knew the name. Okay. All right. Does he have criminal background, even though he's only practiced since 19 at least?
He does. He is on our list. He's qualified to take up to low B felonies. In my conversations with him, he understands that he's not to be taking Category A felonies and handling those himself. And since there are Category A qualified persons in his office, that if he wanted to do so, he really should take the opportunity to learn from them if he wants to take those level of cases.
Okay, great. Thank you.
He may or may not be here today. I know he's been traveling a lot to get to know everybody in the office, get to know the officials he's working with in White Pine County, and kind of get used to running an agency. I'll move on to D, new appointed council rates. You may or may not have already received an email from us. We sent it out, I think, to everybody that's on every list we have. The rates did increase at the CJA level. They're now $175 an hour for appointed counsel for non-death penalty cases and $223 an hour for capital cases, reflecting just short of a 2% increase for those rates. E, so the department's been working with attorneys to develop new billing guidelines. So we've had a lot of questions since we started reviewing billing for attorneys about what things are appropriate to bill for and not appropriate to bill for. And we're doing this as a way to do a few things. I think first is to create some uniformity for the attorneys that are billing so they understand what kind of things will be approved, what kind of things won't be approved, what might require more additional information or details. And hopefully that'll expedite the billing process in our review. I think it's also going to be helpful for a lot of the counties we work with. That way they're getting the information they need to be confident that what they're paying is appropriate legal work being produced by these attorneys. We're also going to be changing some of the forms in the future to help distill, again, that information that's needed to make payments from the systems for each of the counties, and to ensure we're getting enough information from attorneys that we have appropriate record of the work they've done, that they're billing for, and the types of information that we have to keep categorically put together so we have really good archives of that data, and we're keeping track of that for not just billing purposes, but also for data analysis purposes in the future. We did upload both the proposed billing guidelines. I don't think we've uploaded the forms yet, but we have that set of guidelines posted on the website for this meeting. That comes in two sets. One is billing guidelines for actual attorney billing. The other is for expert investigator review and billing. We have proposed billing guidelines for experts and investigators because occasionally we'll see, what's effectively an invoice, but it's a letter that just says, I'm Dr. So-and-so, please accept this letter as an invoice for $25,000 for this bill. Thanks, right? And we need a lot more information to make this payable. So hopefully by having these guidelines out there, attorneys can better work with their experts and investigators to produce better invoicing so we can make sure that we get those bills paid on time. And I'm happy to answer any questions the board has about any of those issues.
Thanks, Peter. Any board questions, Chris?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
All right, and you said those were uploaded, Peter, so we can take a look at those if people have questions.
Yes, and please get back to me if you have any questions, any input, comments. I'd certainly appreciate it. We hope to get those promulgated out to the attorneys sometime this month. The sooner, obviously, the better for everybody involved. We're also going to host some training sessions with the attorneys and their staffs after we put those out there, so that we have really a collaborative effort in making sure that the attorneys and their staffs understand what we're looking for, and that we understand if there are any ways we can make this improved in the rollout, we can make those improvements.
Great, thank you. Okay, if there are no board member comments, that was for discussion. So we'll move on to item number 5, which is the Attorney General opinion regarding the board obtaining outside counsel. And I don't know if our DAG, Todd Weiss, or Peter, I don't know which one of you wants to handle that one if we've got an update for discussion.
I'll take it to begin with. This was added at the chair's request from the last board meeting. I'm not aware of a question being submitted to the AGO or a response being provided by the AGO, but I'll let Todd speak to that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dag Todd Weiss. As far as I know, there's been no official request for opinion. It needs to be in writing, submitted to our litigation person. And I brought that up to former Chair Fitzsimmons, it was a couple months ago, and she said that she realized she had forgotten to do that and would do that. That never happened, and I'm now aware that she resigned back in November, but I was not aware of that until yesterday afternoon. So I just need you, Chair Thomas. Honestly, it has to become the chair. It can't be from an individual member. I did find that much out. To send a written request. Email is fine, and I'll give you the information of who that needs to go to. And once that is done, we're off and running and can get you an official response to that question.
Great. All right, we will get that moving. And sorry that you weren't aware of the changes on the board level. It seems to be the one constant is the change on this board. Are there any questions or comments regarding that item on the board obtaining outside counsel?
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, I do have, it's Joni and Tonopah. I do have a couple of questions. Can someone please remind me why we felt it was necessary to seek outside counsel, number one, and number two, who was going to pay for that if we did hire outside counsel? Thank you.
Sure, Peter or Todd, do you want to elaborate on that?
I can address that. So, if my memory serves correct, and it doesn't always serve correct, so please, if anyone remembers anything specific that I'm forgetting, but I believe there were a couple different questions that were going to be part of the official opinion request. One of them would be, do we have the authority to hire outside counsel? And then if the answer to that is yes, then what are our options for paying for that? And I believe somebody mentioned, what about the scenario where the board members privately fund paying for an attorney, even if we're not allowed to have that paid for through, board funding. So there's a few moving pieces to the question as I originally remember it being posed. And obviously, the official question that we get from Chair Thomas will tell us, what exact questions we need to resolve. But part of that was, what are our options for funding a private attorney, even if we are allowed to retain one?
Well, let me throw out to the board then, do we still want to move forward with this? I mean, I know there's been some changes on the board. Even if we were granted an opinion saying that we could move forward and secure outside counsel, I think the process by which we would select that counsel would have to be decided. And then of course, where is it paid for, and is that the best use of the board's resources? So I'm interested. I don't think this is an action. It's just for discussion, but I would love to get a general consensus on whether or not you want me to ink up a letter.
Madam Chair, I'm just curious why we feel that the AG's office is not providing adequate representation, and we need to go to outside counsel. That would be my fundamental question.
Yeah, Joni, I feel like I share the same question, and I'm digging back to think of why we initially entertained that thought.
Yeah, same here.
I can't remember this, Chris, if they indicated that they might be a conflict, and I can't remember now how we wrote.
Yeah, I don't remember at
That
all.
usually comes from the AG's office with the recommendation.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
All right, well, I'm gonna table that guy for now then. I
Yeah,
don't
maybe-
get a sense.
Yeah,
go
maybe
ahead.
make a request to the AG's office in the meantime, and then we can still decide if we want to move forward or not.
Okay,
Kate,
great.
I think the reason was our prior chairman had questions on whether or not the conflict between the governor's office and some of the committee members' perception of what the statute was on the powers of the governor, et cetera, relative to selecting the executive director, selecting the state public defender, et cetera.
Jim, I think you're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
And so I'm thinking, I think this is what Chris said. I think we should still ask the question so
Okay.
that we know. I'm not sure at this juncture whether we would actually want to follow through and hire somebody, but I think having that knowledge would be of benefit.
Yep.
Great. Okay, we'll push forward then.
I do have a question, just sorry, as the newbie. What were Laura's concerns memorialized anywhere in the public record so that I could go back and take a look? Or would it be bad form to ask her if she would be willing to memorialize a letter, what the concerns were in the interest of betterment of this committee, so that it would be something to discuss in the future? I hate to see whatever the real concern was to be swept away by someone leaving the board.
I
David,
think you
it's
could just
Joni and Tonopah, and I think Jim's recollection is absolutely spot on. There was some questions relative to whether the governor had the authority to make the decisions that he made, and she wanted another opinion on the statute that would come from outside counsel.
Hey, Joni, it's really Jeff, not Jim. Jim's the other Wells.
Oh, sorry. I knew that. My apologies.
David, I think if you just simply listen to either the last or the next to last meeting, and Cynthia can give that to you, Laura expressed her concern very articulately in discussion in those meetings.
You could also potentially look to the recently approved minutes from the last meeting as a
Yep.
good guide.
I was just gonna suggest
Yeah,
that.
right.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
Great. All right, well, I will draft something up and get it over to Peter, and we can make sure it's what, at least we're making the ask, so then we'll report on it at a subsequent board meeting. All right, let's go on to item number 6, which is the Nevada State Public Defender status, an update on Humboldt County Office budget request. I know that I think, Peter, we uploaded the GovRec budget to the website, so if you want to walk us through, and I don't see Mr. Coates on here, but there's a couple numbers, so I don't know if we have the opportunity to talk to him as well. So I'll turn it over to you, Peter.
Sure, yeah, I'll just briefly go over this. Essentially, what's been done, this is the original GovRec budget. If there have been amendments since the initial one, those aren't included in this, and I probably haven't seen them. So this is just the initial layout that we worked with both ASD and GFO to develop. What this essentially does, it's not a lot of number shifting, so the total budget for 1499 hasn't changed a lot. What's changed is the way that it gets funded. So we haven't had a lot of revenues in the 1499 account because in the last biennium, Carson City opted out of the NSPD's office and opened up their own local office. And so those revenues weren't coming in. And then the balance has sort of been paid for by general fund funds, and then the revenues coming in from White Pine County. What this budget does is it basically takes the positions that were already in the office that weren't eliminated. They remain in the budget last biennium. We've continued those, just move those to a different duty station. So many of those positions that already existed will just be moved to Humboldt County instead of being Carson City positions. So we're duplicating those so their expenses actually stay roughly the same and actually slightly lower than we anticipated at the beginning of the last biennium. The revenue changes are also that we're expecting revenues according to the maximum contribution amount from Humboldt County and White Pine County. And the balance is going to be paid with general funds instead of it just being an allocation based on percentages. So it used to be allocated based on the county is inputting about 25% of the costs of the office, and 75% would be state funded. Now it's actual revenue from the county, and then the difference between the budget amount and those revenues is going to be the state funded portion. It does include 5 attorney positions, I believe, I have to double check, for Humboldt County, which is what the workload requires, staff, investigator in-house, a vehicle. We also added funding that we didn't anticipate when we opened the White Pine County office. So funding for IT projects, funding for getting a new building up and running, things that we've learned by experience cost more money than we thought they otherwise would. So those should all be built into there. We expect that it should be enough to get the office started. Obviously, there's still going to be concerns about hiring somebody in a reasonable amount of time when services transition over in July 1st. Obviously, we won't have a building, I don't think, up and running on July 1st. So we'll probably rely on some contractors in an interim period until that office really gets up and running and up to speed. And hopefully we can hire bodies to fill those positions that want to work in Humboldt County. Of course, it's a task getting attorneys anywhere in rural Nevada right now. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the budget. It can be kind of dense to read. I'm happy to help.
Do any board members have any questions or comments on the budget for the state public defender?
No, thank you.
All right. We'll move into the status of the Davis litigation. I don't see our monitor on. Ms. Hanan, are you here? All right, and Peter, I don't think you have an update.
Not much. The only update I have is I know a letter went out from, I just recently found out a letter went out from the governor's council to the Davis Plaintiffs Council about steps that have been taken regarding compliance in the last, I think that was sent out in December. So the last couple of months after they received a letter from Plaintiffs Council. My understanding is they have another meeting sometime later this month. Hopefully I'll have more information to pass along to the board then.
All right. Great, we'll go into the oversight update, then you can continue to take it from here.
Sure. Yeah. So there was a very large zip file available on the website. I think I let most of you, Mr. Figler probably didn't get that because I think I emailed that out before I realized that you'd been appointed to the board. That very large zip file contains all of the reports we had from our 3 oversight advisors up until that point. I think it was actually updated once after that to add a few more files. There's quite a bit to review, so we're going to keep trying to give it to you at least a couple of weeks in advance of board meetings. So that way, if you want to sift through all the reporting, you can get a good idea of what's happening if you're interested in your county, a different county, how the advisors are performing the work, and if you have any commentary, you want to provide input, we'd really appreciate it here because I can only review so many at a time, and it's kind of a cursory review until I can get somebody else in as deputy director. I really rely on kind of more distilled reporting from each of the oversight professionals, unless, if they give me a phone call and say, hey, this is urgent, of course we deal with that. But typically that's not a frequent thing. So yeah, if you get a chance to review and you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out or feel free to reach out to our outreach advisors directly and have a conversation with them about what might be happening in those reports.
And that one was for potential action. Does anybody have any questions? Do we want a motion? Do we need a motion?
I don't think we need a motion regarding that. The part B, I wanted to pitch to Brenda. We have been chasing down CLE compliance as we're obligated to do at the end of every year. There was a change in the regulations. I think we did that last year, might have been the year before. It all kind of blurs together, where we changed the reporting requirement for CLE. As you probably remember, the regulations require that everyone on our list obtain 5 hours of CLE credit in criminal law, and we've been working to ensure that that is happening. So if Brenda has anything to add.
Sure, Peter, I do. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So as Peter said, in December of 2023, the regulations were updated to require all indigent defense providers in the rural counties to submit CLE transcripts by January 1st, reflecting a minimum of the 5 hours of CLE courses relevant to indigent defense services. We currently have 140 active attorneys, active in the sense that they've agreed to take cases. Not all of them have. I did send out 4 emails between October and January this year, reminding folks of the requirement and the new need to send us their CLE transcripts. For the attorneys that hadn't met the 5 hours, I did offer to send links to prior CLEs that they could view for credit, and a lot of attorneys took advantage of that. It was really great to see a lot of them come on board and get really active with the department in that regard. Several others are still in the process of trying to take advantage of that to flesh out their 2024 credits. They didn't get quite the 5 they needed. So of the 140 active attorneys, 102 have complied, which I think is fantastic. That was a really good response. We do have 38 that have not complied. Of those, 18 have active indigent defense cases, 5 of whom are contractors with counties. So that's a little bit concerning. 3 of them have full-time contracts with counties, and some I've been in contact with, some have not responded to emails or phone messages that I've left. One of the reasons this is on the agenda today is the regulations don't provide any sort of enforcement mechanism. So I was hoping to get your input on what additional steps, if any, you would like me to take to try and get these attorneys to comply. Some thoughts we had, and maybe you have some better ideas, is for the folks that aren't contractors, to drop them to the bottom of the email list that we send out when we have a case available for a county, so they don't get first chance at the cases. And then maybe for the contractors who are not in compliance, let the county folks know that their contractors need maybe a little encouragement. But I don't know if anyone had better or other ideas.
Thanks, Brenda. Does the board have any suggestions on some compliance opportunities so they can bring folks into conformance? Although 104 is that's impressive.
This is
As-
Chris. I think definitely
Go ahead, Chris.
notifying the local governments that that have contracts, that they're not in compliance, coming up with a proper timeline that they have to do it, especially if you're offering online. There really should not be an excuse per se.
As a recipient of those Brenda emails, first of all, I want to give her a shout out. It was handled very professionally and motivationally. It was just a great job by Brenda to get those emails out and remind everybody of how important that was and making it super easy to come into compliance. So kudos and great job on Brenda's part. I would concur with Chris that the county needs to know. But I think what would really motivate those last remaining attorneys is if they're told that they will be on a list that could be made public, that they're not in compliance with their education requirements that would be going to the county. You're going to see everybody scramble up because no one wants to be on a list like that. Short of just telling them that they will get no new appointments until they come into full compliance, I think that's already kind of understood. But to make it kind of clear, to get the last stragglers. This is just super duper important and it's super duper easy. DIDS couldn't make it any easier to come into compliance. So, my 2 cents.
Brenda, is that helpful for you? A little public shaming might help with the effort.
That is helpful. Thank you.
Well, the threat of public shaming. Don't start.
Right.
Don't leave
Right,
with the
right,
shaming.
Right.
Yes.
Be careful, David. I know where you live.
And Chris's suggestion of notifying the counties that have contracts, I think, is a good one as well.
Yeah. No, I am in compliance. I would just say that. Brenda got
We
me.
weren't going to ask. We might have.
But he is.
Okay, good.
Kate, can I ask Brenda a question?
Yes, sir.
How much do we charge attorneys to use our online courses?
It's free of charge.
Great. Yeah.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to keep that into the record. And then the next one is it only available to attorneys that are on our list, or can any criminal defense lawyer take them and then apply to be on the list subsequently?
So I send out the email reminders only to active attorneys on our list, but any attorney is welcome to contact me and I will send them a list of the courses we have available for CLE credit. And they don't have to be currently compliant with the 5 CLEs to get on our list. They just need to come into compliance by the end of the calendar year. So they could get on our list and then agree to take the 5 hours of courses before the end of the year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Are there any more suggestions for Brenda and Peter on that? Would someone like to make those suggestions in the form of a motion?
This is Chris. I would move that we, first, it's a good thing, Brenda, that everybody, that's the large number was in compliance, but I would move that we notify counties that have contracts with individuals that have not complied with the CLE, that we come up with some methodology to publicly shame them. I don't know what the appropriate term is. But to let them know that, hey, you know, this is reasonable, they're free, it doesn't cost you anything, and you can do it online. So I think that their needs as a professional, they should do that. So the motion would be to include the county notification and some form of notification that publicly if they do not come into compliance.
Chris,
Great.
Chris,
Yeah.
would you add to that they get no new cases until they are in
Oh.
compliance?
Thank you, Jeff. I forgot. Yes, and add that to the motion as well.
Hey, Chris, if you're amenable, why don't we put a date on it? Give them like basically 2 months to come into compliance after deadline, basically a grace of January and February. So by March 1st.
And by March 1st.
By March 1st, the notice will be given to the county with all attorneys who
Okay.
are not in compliance.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That way Brenda knows she's not in limbo waiting to follow up with stuff. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to give people a chance in that grace period. I mean, 2 months is.
Sure. I would
Great.
add that to my motion, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Chris. We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right. Any opposition, or sorry, let me start with any discussion. I think we already covered that. Any, all those in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition to the motion? All right, great. Thank you so much. Brenda will continue on with you for some training and the pipeline update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, can we go back to 8A? Peter, did you want a motion from this board to accept the reports, or was this portion only for information?
That was really just intended for information. They're already product of the department and they are public records, subject to inspection.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Joni. All right. Brenda, take it away for us.
Okay. So I'll start out with the LASSO program. We currently have 5 law students for fiscal year 25 signed up for LASSO. 2 are in this coming summer. 2 are this coming spring. And then we have 1 LASSO recipient who was a fall externship, and then will also continue into a spring externship with the same law firm. So that's very exciting. We also have our very first silver tier graduate to be who was offered and has accepted a permanent full-time job with the Carson City Public Defender's Office. So this summer she will be getting the bar stipend, bar prep stipend, and then she will be getting the stipend for accepting a public defender position. So that's very exciting for us.
That's exciting.
We did a virtual recruiting event last week with Pacific Northwest Consortium of Law Schools that covers Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Arizona, and Utah. And there was myself and 3 other indigent defense providers that attended. And during the 1.5 hour open sort of town hall that we had, we were able to get 3 students in. Of those, 1 of whom has applied for a LASSO stipend. So I sent her information out to the attorneys in the counties that she expressed interest in. The other 2 were Nevada natives who just wanted to come and say hello to someone from Nevada and chat a little bit, but they did promise, I sent them information on it, and they promised to let anyone that they knew who was interested in indigent defense forward their to apply. Moving on, the annual conference is April 2nd to the 4th. We were working again with NPHF and Deja Vishny. There were some delays getting the NPHF contract finalized despite getting an early start on it, but things are on track now. The mailers went out last week. All the speakers are lined up. The agenda is set and the registration is live. So I've been trying to get in touch with NPHF this week to see if we had any update on how many people have registered yet, but they've been very busy and haven't had a chance to get back to me. The good news is the Nevada Attorneys for Criminal Justice have agreed to host an evening reception, one of the 2 evenings. The conference will go from midday Wednesday through midday Friday, so folks can drive in. So we'll have a Wednesday evening event and a Thursday evening event. And then this year's also is on crimes of violence, so primarily sexual assault and murder is what we're focusing on. Moving on to the virtual training update, Jennifer Fraser from the Clark County Public Defender's Office will be conducting a 2-hour juvenile law basics CLE next week. We like to have one of those so that the folks that are new attorneys or don't do juvenile law want to take those cases, they get sort of a primer in it for that they can watch, and that will work for 3 years. We'll also be having Westlaw come on board in March and do some training. We provide Westlaw to all of our indigent defense providers, but we can see that not all of them use it. So we're hoping that by giving this training on how to research in Westlaw, it might encourage them to use it more. And then Dr. Cord has offered to do 2 CLEs this year. I'm still playing phone tag with him, trying to get these set up. One is on competency to stand trial, and the other is on psychosexual risk assessments. So I will get more information to you as we get those finalized. And then the final, I think, item I have to talk to you about today is our externs from Boyd School of Law. We have 3 externs this legislative session. They've already started working on reading through the bill drafts that touch on indigent defense and writing up summaries of those. So we're really excited to have their help this season.
That's great. Lots of great activity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, any comments, questions on the training and pipeline update? All right, you're a lively bunch today. We'll move on to 10, workload compliance update. Peter.
Yeah, this is going to be a standing item unless y'all change your mind about what you want on the agenda, just to make sure that we're keeping an eye on this as requested at the last meeting. Nye County being first, I think is very appropriate. They've made a lot of progress in just the last few months. They solicited for new contracts. I think it was a couple weeks ago, the board just approved 3 more contracts. These are full-time in Nye County, so that brings out to a total of 9 contracts. While they're still short of the 12 required in the workload, that is, making up half of the difference there is a pretty big step. It should show roughly 38% decrease in caseloads for the 5 attorneys in rotation that are primarily working per round. For Lyon County, I'm going to have Brenda speak to this. We've drilled down more as to which attorneys are working where. For a little while, it was kind of confusing as to how many attorneys were being provided through each of the offices and who those attorneys were. And I know Brenda did a lot of work researching, working with these firms to find out exactly who was working where and for what kind of full-time equivalents. If you could actually break that out for us, Brenda, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, Peter. What we have is Brock Law is obligated to provide 5 FTE attorneys or full-time equivalent attorneys. David, if you're not familiar with our terminology. And we know that he has 2 attorneys working with him and a Lasso 2L working with him as an extern. We also have Mansfield and Mayo, who are obligated to provide 3 attorneys. We know that they've reported they have Patrick Mansfield and Massey Mayo, and then 2 other attorneys working for them. They're trying to bring a 5th one on board because they also have the Humboldt County contract, which obligates them to 2 FTE attorneys. And then Walther Law is a little bit more complicated because he only does the juvenile cases, the specialty courts, and then some conflict cases in Lyon County. And his contracts aren't as clear on the FTE equivalent he's required to provide. I did speak with Olga from his firm, and she confirmed that she is not working on any indigent defense cases. So it appears it's just Mario Walther. But I don't have a number on what his FTE total would be. I had a hard time understanding how Lyon County understood his workload.
Yeah, so my math, that gets us to 8 contractual FTEs plus at least 1 for Mario, which is 9. Lyon County in the workload studies requires 12 attorneys that are full-time equivalent. So they're still not quite there, and we're going to be working with them to try and figure out how they're going to bridge that gap in the future. Obviously, again, it's difficult trying to get new attorneys to come out to these locations and take contracts. Hopefully, they'll be encouraged to work with us going forward, though. The last one is Churchill County. Churchill County recently hired a new deputy public defender in Jacob Summers' office. So there are 2 full-time attorneys. Wright still has himself in an office. I believe he has an extern in that office as well. They just had a meeting this morning, I think, considering hiring another attorney and changing the pay bands essentially for one of the attorneys they hired so they could get higher pay. They also corrected an issue where they were looking like it looked like they were only posting for a mid-level attorney when they would be accepting applications from entry-level attorneys. And Jacob Summers is very well qualified to provide that supervising and training to a new attorney. So they do require, I believe it's 7 and change under the workload study, but they are making improvements to, again, both hire new attorneys and either create a pipeline, which they seem to be doing fairly well with getting externs into the office, and then trying to raise the minimum salaries for new hires and make it clear who they're actually trying to hire and not just, mid-level attorneys. So Churchill County is one of the counties I think we're most proud of. Every time we ask them to do something, they're always throwing something else at it. So we asked them to get a council administrator, they did that. We asked them to put a 2nd-tier office, they did that. Get a 3rd-tier contract, they did that. So they've even built, new building, brand new remodel for their public defender and alternate public defender's office with space to hire enough attorneys to meet the workload. So just wanted to say here that they've done a fantastic job, and so is Nye County by offering more contracts and really working with David Sheik, our outreach advisor down there, pretty collaboratively to see what problems are to getting more contractors and then bringing more in.
Awesome.
Peter, I just want to say, this is Joni in Tonopah, that David's reports were enlightening and very helpful to me. Being, of course, a resident and representative from Nye County, they were very helpful.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that. And like I said earlier, if you want to look up your county's reports, they're all broken down in that within that zipped file. They're broken down by the I think they've broken down by the report. If not, you should be able to search them by county. They usually include them in the title of the report. It is a lot to go through, but I think, like you mentioned, there's a lot of valuable information in there to be found.
Well, there were even comments about the judges, which I found fascinating and also very helpful.
Yeah, it's when we have our outreach advisors go out, they're not just looking at attorneys because we're looking at systems as a whole as well. So, the other players in the system, DAs, judges, clerks' offices, these are all people that are involved in the process. And if our job is to ensure that indigent defendants are getting the best representation possible pursuant to the 6th Amendment obligation, right? That's part of the system that we're analyzing. So they are definitely talking to district attorneys, talking to judges, observing those people in the courtroom and how they interact with public defenders and indigent defendants.
If he finds himself in Tonopah again, I would welcome the opportunity to meet with him.
Thank you, Joni. All right, great. All good news, especially out of Churchill. That's really outstanding. Okay, are there any questions, comments from the board on the workload compliance update for Nye, Lyon, or Churchill? All right. Oh, look here, it's item 11, upcoming meetings. Our first item A, June 19th is Juneteenth, for those of you that recognize that date. So I think we are looking to send out a new poll to the board to see if we can find a new date for that board meeting. And then I think we're also seeking a location, if that is correct, Mr. Director.
Yes, that's correct. Both of those things. I think we scheduled this June 19th meeting sometime last year. So it's been on, nobody here has noticed so far that it's actually a holiday and that many of us won't be at work on that day. So it's probably best if we do revisit that date to reschedule. So expect emails coming in from Cindy to try and figure out what a new date might be best. We also are looking to do that in person. Every time we have an in-person meeting, I think it's a fantastic opportunity to get to know each other better and have productive conversations that just aren't quite the same as in Zoom. Not that you all don't look great behind a camera, but I think it's a good opportunity. So if any of you have any suggestions, if you know of any locations that'd be a good fit, we try to make it out to the rural counties so we really can get everybody involved in a different locality of the state. That would be much appreciated by us so we can get that started.
Great. I always love our meetings in Tonopah, but we'll leave that up to the board. I know, Joni.
I was just going to offer Tonopah because as I am fond of saying, it is equally inconvenient for everyone.
It absolutely is.
True.
Thank you.
So, as much as I enjoyed the Tonopah meeting, it might still be easier for staff if we did like last year and still do it in Carson, because then they don't have to move and travel and we save on some of the expenses that way.
And
That's good too.
Yep.
I'll go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead, Peter.
Oh, sure. I was going to say, hopefully we will actually have a new building come June for the department. We are moving into a much larger space with much more appropriate square footage for the number of people we have in the office now. If we get the building that leasing services seems to hopefully be able to get, it will have enough space to hold the board in a conference room. So we could have it at the new DID's office come June.
Great.
That would be great.
Unless you're dying to get out of Carson City after the session. So we'll let folks, how about more information forthcoming? We'll send out some polling information, but just for everyone's calendars, the June 19th meeting is likely to be very likely to be moved.
How about we just meet in Austin?
We could meet in Austin.
Love Austin.
There's Andrew.
It's great.
All right. All right. Well, we don't need to decide here, I think, mostly because that could take forever. And I'm trying to keep a snappy meeting for us all today. It's not me, it's the nice light agenda. So thank you. But then we have the September, December, and February meetings listed on there for everyone's calendars. So again, we're looking for the in-person in June, and then the following ones look to be virtual. And we'll get some more information out. Do you want, it says for possible action. I don't know that we need to act on that, but I'll ask our DAG or Mr. Handy.
I don't think any action is needed to set new board dates. I'll let Todd jump in if I'm wrong.
Oh, and he will.
Yeah, actually I would say a vote needs for new board dates. The chair has a lot of authority to move stuff around once it's already on the agenda, but to get an actual new meeting date, it does require a board vote.
This is Chris. Todd, could I ask you or to the chair? First, I love your view on Zoom. You look like you have rabbit ears on, which are really cute.
I just noticed that. Yeah,
nice fan.
A little levity doesn't hurt these days. Can we get a list? I don't want to obligate whose seats are up, because I think some of us are termed. I think I'm up again in June. And so that way, I don't know that we want to act on dates other than the June date until we know who's coming on, because their schedules may be a little whack, much differently. And then until we get Laura's appointee, just for food.
Chris, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I don't, if I had to, I couldn't tell you when my term is up. I don't know.
I have no idea myself. So
I'm sure that me and Todd can probably track that down.
Yeah, and I think what we know is it won't be the 19th, but I don't think we have enough information to set a board meeting in June today. But correct me if I'm wrong, somebody's got some pocket dates that they want to throw out. I mean, I guess we could scramble on calendars, but
I think we've got time to set a June meeting, and then if there are enough openings, those people should be able to weigh in on what's better for their schedules.
Okay, why don't we take a motion that says we are not going to meet on June 19th? So
I love that motion.
So the public won't worry about that, and then we can
Okay.
set it later.
Is that your motion, Jim?
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim and Joni with the motion and the second. Do we have any discussion on not having a meeting on June 19th in observation of Juneteenth?
Good, and Jeff is Jim's ugly cousin, so it's.
I mean, are we gonna make a motion to just call Jeff Jim from now
That
on?
was
Is that possible?
We'll
cold-blooded.
just call him Wells. All right,
Okay.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
If I could briefly,
Yes,
so long as we
sir.
do have a meeting at some point in June, so we can get the annual report approved by the board.
Right,
Yes.
right, just
Okay.
not June
That's
19th.
perfect. Yeah.
Correct. We
Just wanna
will have
put
a
that
meeting
on the
in
record
June.
here.
It will not be the 19th. I think that's the modified motion. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? All righty, well, there we have our non-June 19th meeting movement, and the other dates are listed on the agenda.
And Kate,
If no, yeah, go ahead.
one last thing, because we were talking about when people's terms expire. Remember, under our statutes, even when they expire, you're still on until your appointment is confirmed and comes forward.
Correct.
That is correct.
Technically, Laura could have still been here.
Correct.
because it hasn't been filled.
Yes, thank you for that reminder.
Yep.
That's a good reminder.
I did want to mention, if I could, before we get to adjournment, Cindy, who's been with this office since the beginning, is retiring this month.
Yes.
So we'd like to congratulate her on
Oh,
being fantastic in this department. This place won't run the same without her, and we'll definitely miss her.
Too bad we're not the parole board. We could just say no. Parole denied.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank
Cindy,
you,
you've been marvelous.
Cindy.
You helped, you and the whole team helped set up a really good department, and you should be very proud of your contribution.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your
Thank you
retirement.
so much.
That's
Congratulations.
exciting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. All right. Do we have any public comment? I did see for a second there, but my screen is very messed up. Mr. Coates might be here. I didn't know if anybody had public comment or wanted a quick introduction.
Yeah,
Under
I've
public
actually been
comment?
here since about 1:15, but I had my camera.
Oh, good. Sorry.
No, no problem. But hello. I'm
Would
Andrew.
you like to say anything to the board under public comment?
Not under public comment, no, but feel free to reach out to me. I'm Andrew. I've been a public defender in Lyon County, Nye County, and Conflicts Council throughout rural Nevada. Previously, I was Deputy General Counsel to the Governor Lombardo, and then he asked me to take this job. So that's how I came to be here.
Thank you so much.
Welcome
for being
aboard. Hopefully you're happy about it.
Madam Chair, I do have a question for
Go ahead,
Andrew. I
Jody.
didn't realize he was in the meeting. If I may.
Yeah, I'll look to Mr. Weiss. Under public comment, I was just going to squeeze him in as a quick introduction. Maybe
Oh,
we're not.
I was going to ask if we could reopen item 4C anyway, just to ask a question of staff. But since he's here, if we could revisit 4C.
You okay with that, Mr. Dag?
Yeah, you as the chair can take us back to,
Great.
earlier
Thank
items.
you.
Yeah.
It
I'll
does.
take all kinds of liberties here. All right, so under 4C, we're going to open it up, and Ms. Easley has a question for you, Mr. Coates.
Yeah. Hi, Andrew. Just a quick question for you. Are you going to actually assist our deputies in the courtroom, or do you see your position as purely administrative?
I would say mostly administrative. I actually just got back from Ely, last night, in which I did do some hearings. But ideally administrative, my focus is on compliance with the Davis settlement and mostly recruitment of new more attorneys for Ely and opening the office in Humboldt County.
Thank you.
Is that good, Joni? Anybody else have questions on the board for Mr. Coates under item 4C? Well, thank you for being here. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you earlier. I'm Zoom challenged today.
It's quite all right. Me too.
Thank you. All right. Well, then we are on to item number 12, back to item number 12, public comment. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak?
This is David Sheik. Could I bring something to the board's attention?
Hi, David. Sure. Please go ahead.
And this has to do with White Pine County, and Peter probably wants to address this. There's been a filing of some 20 murder cases in White Pine County having to do with the prison riot last July. 3 of the cases are going to be capital cases, and the other 16 are going to require Category A qualified attorneys. The cost of litigating those cases in White Pine County is going to be tremendous. And I know Peter, I don't know if you want to address that, Peter, but I think the board needed to be aware of that situation in White Pine.
Yeah, I'm happy to address that. So we have appointed counsel for almost all of those defendants so far. I think we're just short 2 or 3 of the Cat A charged defendants remaining to find counsel for. As for cost, I've already made GFO and ASD aware that this cost is going to be coming. Because these are prison cases, these are going to be coming out of statutory contingency funds. I'm also having them look into whether this could come out of 518 funds, because we do have an account with the Public Defender's Office for paying complex litigation counsel. One of the contractors that we have engaged to perform those services, Ozzy Fumo's, taking one of the capital cases, so we'll be able to pay out of that account. So I'm working already with GFO to make sure that we can get funding in place to ensure that counsel is timely paid, that there's going to need a lot of support services, investigation, mitigation specialists, and that we're already working to start moving those funds over in anticipation for those costs.
This is Chris. Question, not being an attorney, do you have to hold it in White Pine, or can you do a change of venue? Would it be cheaper, easier? I don't know.
So typically it has to be tried in the case or in the county where the offense occurred. There
Okay.
are some situations where the venue might change, but cost is typically not a factor for that. Usually it's because it's not convenient or there's some issue with the jury pool that's being drawn.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Actually, Chris, we can follow up on that. And I am an attorney and I don't know the answer to this question. Without crossing any lines, I mean, there's a lot of people who are charged with murder in this particular case. It is going to be an economic hardship. There's no doubt, especially if it is in White Pine. I wonder what the parameters or the ability of this board is to have some manner of sway or position or opinion with regard to the depth of how many people are being charged, or even encouraging our appointed attorneys to move for a venue change and use as one of the bases potential economic impact and the ability for those attorneys to be able to do the best job without depleting the resources that are funding them. In other words, being a little creative on situations like this. I bet Mr. Sheik would have some very valuable input on how far we can go as an oversight board to encourage what we're allowed to do, encouraging these type of prosecutions not to break the bank, and to make sure that everyone gets the proper representation commensurate with the seriousness of the charges, but also encourage a lack of overcharging, for lack of a better word, of how many people are maybe implicated in this requiring Category A counsel. Just to throw that in the mix.
I was concerned, I mean, as a non-attorney, this is Chris, I was concerned about the cost and if there's housing available for the attorneys that are going to have to do this. But was there an overcharging? And it appears to me, and just in my naivete, that there may have been. And I don't know what our authority is or what an update is, but it's kind of under our.
I mean, just to follow up on that, Chris.
So real quick, you guys, we're under public comment. I just want to make sure we're not deliberating and diving down the policy track here outside of the scope of.
Fair. But to the chair, then I would suggest that perhaps for lack of a better word, some sort of subcommittee or white paper might be appropriate for all the various economic concerns that are in the purview of this board, including maybe even proposals for collective representation or housing or things that could better expedite our obligations to the indigent defendants, and our concerns for making sure that our bucks go as far as they can to get the best representation possible. So I would love to see us not drop that, as this is a developing issue. We're the only ones that I think would be in the position to be able to help drive that type of ship with whatever authority we have to do that.
And we'll confer with Director Handy to see what kinds of communications are underway. If they're not successful, what the board might be able to exercise as far as, authority over trying to make some headway that way. I don't know if June will be too late to put it on as a board item for discussion and direction. But
One of those
let's-
cases, I can say those will take a while. So,
Yeah. Well, yes,
True.
we know that very well.
so
All
June
right,
will be
so
fine.
Yeah, I think I can generally say that I will keep monitoring the situation. If you have any individual
Provided.
concerns, please feel free to raise them with me. And I'll keep track of all those concerns. And if necessary, I think that I can reach out to Kate and the rest of you and say, hey, we do need a board meeting before June.
yeah,
And we can
we
work
can
with that
always
if we think that's
call
necessary.
a special meeting for sure.
I-
Okay.
I think we lost you.
I think
David.
we,
Your sound
yeah,
cut out.
David, I think we lost you.
Oh, I was just thanking David for bringing that to the board's attention. It's vital.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sheik. All right. Any further public comment under item number 12 on our board agenda? All right, with 1 minute to spare before the top of the hour, I will call for adjournment and thank you all for your time today and for your patience with me.
Thank you. You did a great job.
Thanks,
Move
guys.
Thanks, everyone. Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
in
Thank
June.
you, everyone.
Thank you.